All right, so we're diving into lean today,
Uh-huh.
which is this whole way of thinking and working that revolves around
Right.
maximizing value
Right.
while minimizing waste. And we've got
Uh-huh.
a really interesting book to guide us, Powering the Lean Enterprise,
Huh?
and also some case studies
Right.
of
Like
lean
coach
in
learning.
action.
Yes.
So our goal today is to try to distill
Okay.
the core ideas from these sources, bring them to life with some real-world examples,
hmm
and hopefully uncover some insights that you can use.
What I think is really cool about lean is that it's gone way beyond just the factory floor.
Right.
It's now used in boardrooms, healthcare systems,
Uh-huh.
even individuals are using it for personal productivity.
It's definitely become a buzzword, hasn't it?
It has.
So before we get into specific examples, can we just lay the foundation a bit?
Sure.
What exactly is lean?
Okay.
Um, it seems like it's more than just simple efficiency, right?
Right. Absolutely. It's a total mindset shift. It's a drive to maximize value and minimize anything that doesn't contribute.
I see.
It's like sculpting, You chip away at the excess
Right.
until you've got this lean, strong form.
I like that. And I know it's got its roots in manufacturing,
Mm-hmm.
the famous Toyota production system.
Right, exactly. You think about post-war Japan, Toyota, under the guidance of people like Taiichi Ono.
Right.
They revolutionized their production process with this system, the Toyota Production System, or TPS.
Mhm.
And that focus on eliminating waste, maximizing value, that became like the foundation of what we call lean today.
So it's gone from making cars to
Mhm.
transforming entire industries.
Totally. And even our personal lives. It's pretty fascinating.
That's super interesting. Now, the book you provided lays out the 4 rules and 5 principles of lean.
Right.
Can we maybe pick out a couple that really stand out to you?
Sure. Let's look at the rule structure of reactivity. You think about those meticulous procedures that airlines follow
Right.
when they're investigating accidents.
Uh-huh.
Every single step structured to identify the root cause and prevent it from happening again.
It's amazing how that makes air travel so safe.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
it really is. And then, you've got the principle, clearly connect every customer and supplier.
Okay.
The book tells this story about Steve,
Right.
who was an assembly line supervisor, and he was dealing with constant bottlenecks
Right.
in his team's workflow. And so by connecting directly with the preceding workstation, really understanding their needs, understanding their constraints,
Right.
he was able to simplify the whole process and just improve that flow.
So it's not just about the individual task, it's about understanding how they all fit together.
Exactly. Yeah, that interconnectedness
Yeah.
is so key to a lean system.
Now, speaking of seeing the whole picture, the book really dives into these fascinating case studies
Right.
of lean in action. One that caught my eye was
Yeah.
Edgar Stern
Oh, yeah.
and his family's shoe business.
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Edgar's story is a great example of the struggles with change. So he inherits this business, Stern's Comfort Shoes, and it's really struggling to stay relevant. And initially, Edgar resisted adapting, much like the company itself.
It's that fear of the unknown, right?
It is. And so many businesses, probably even our listeners are
Exactly.
facing that.
So how did Edgar get over that hurdle?
Well, he realized that to survive, he needed to embrace these lean principles, even though it meant overhauling a lot of familiar ways of doing things. It was a tough journey, but he confronted that fear of change.
Right.
And he really transformed the business and ultimately saved it.
Wow, that's so inspiring.
It's a great story.
The book also features Elena Hollis, who
Yes.
was a caterer facing a real ethical dilemma. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so Elena was known for her commitment to high-quality ingredients and service.
Okay.
But rising food costs put her in a tough spot.
Right.
She didn't want to compromise her values or disappoint her customers, so it was really a struggle to balance principles with the bottom line.
What was her lean solution? How did she figure it out?
So she realized she needed to redefine value for her customers.
Okay.
She found these creative ways to source affordable but still high-quality ingredients.
Right.
And she even introduced a new line of budget-friendly menu options. And that allowed her to stay true to her commitment, but also adapt to the changing economic climate.
It sounds like lean thinking can actually go beyond just efficiency.
It does.
It can actually help businesses navigate ethical considerations as well.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating. And then there's Dr. Elizabeth Simpson, who decided to bring lean to healthcare. Tell me about her.
Oh, Dr. Simpson, a real pioneer.
Ah.
She was disillusioned with that traditional healthcare model with those rushed appointments and the impersonal care.
Hmm.
And so she created this whole new lean medical practice that
Wow.
was centered around patient well-being and a holistic approach.
That's incredibly ambitious. Did she succeed in making it truly lean? Healthcare is a pretty complex system.
It is. But Dr. Simpson's story shows that lean can be adapted to even these complex environments.
Right.
It wasn't easy, but she managed to implement these principles
Yeah.
to personalize care, streamline processes, and really empower patients to actively participate in their own health journey.
It seems like there's a real pattern here, right?
There is.
Lean isn't just for factories or big businesses.
Mm-mm.
It's applicable to individuals, even in fields like healthcare.
Uh,
But we keep saying lean.
uh,
Can we dig a little deeper into what that really means?
sure.
The book mentions this human behavior model
Right.
and successful failures. What does that even mean?
So you've hit on a really crucial aspect of lean.
It
It's
is.
not just about the processes. It's about understanding that human element, the psychology of change.
So it's recognizing that people don't always embrace change easily.
Exactly. Some people might resist it. The human behavior model really acknowledges this, and it highlights that for lean to work, you need to consider how individuals learn, how they adapt, and how they ultimately change their beliefs.
Right.
And that's where this idea of successful failures comes in.
Successful failures. I don't understand. How can a failure be successful?
It's about, instead of fearing mistakes,
Okay.
you see them as these valuable data points.
I see.
Each setback, each experiment that doesn't quite go to plan is a learning opportunity.
So it's like shifting our mindset from avoiding failure
Mm-hmm.
to embracing it as like a stepping stone.
Exactly. And this approach aligns perfectly with the concept of kata, which is a term borrowed from martial arts.
Kata, like those choreographed movements
Yeah.
they practice.
Right. So in martial arts, kata represents these patterned behaviors that
Mhm.
lead to mastery. It's like practicing a sequence of movements,
Right.
refining them over and over again until they just become second nature.
I see. So how does kata translate to the business world? Or even, our personal lives?
So in lean, kata becomes this improvement kata.
Okay.
It's this structured approach to problem solving. It's a cycle of planning, experimenting, and
Right.
learning, both from successes and failures, just like practicing a kata in martial arts.
So it's about creating a habit of continuous improvement
Uh-huh.
where every challenge is an opportunity to refine your skills
Right.
and processes.
That's a great way to put it. And that's really a key takeaway from our exploration of lean thinking and practice.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered so much ground already. But before we move on, maybe we can highlight one of the biggest pitfalls
Sure.
organizations face when trying to implement lean. What do you think?
One of the biggest mistakes is thinking that lean is only for manufacturing.
Right.
So many organizations miss that the principles are actually universal and they can apply to any process, any industry. It's really about identifying and eliminating waste, no matter where it is.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we are out of time for this segment.
Okay.
We'll have to pick this up in the next part of our deep dive.
Another pitfall, is when people equate activity with productivity.
Oh, yeah.
Just because people are busy doesn't actually mean they're adding value.
Right. The illusion of progress.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
So how does lean differentiate between that busy work
Right.
and actual productivity?
Well, lean really encourages you to connect your actions to desired outcomes.
Okay.
Make sure your efforts are actually translating into tangible improvements.
So it's about focusing on what truly matters.
Yes.
Not just like filling up your time.
Exactly.
What about the role of leadership in all of this? I imagine buy-in from the top is pretty crucial for lean to succeed.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Without strong support from leaders, these lean initiatives often just kind of fizzle out.
Right.
Leaders have to really embody the principles,
Hmm.
advocate for experimentation, and just build that culture where continuous improvement can thrive.
Now, speaking of continuous improvement, we were talking about this concept of kata earlier.
Right, right.
It almost sounded like having a blueprint for problem solving.
Uh-huh.
Can you unpack that a little bit more for me?
Sure. So improvement kata is this really systematic process for setting ambitious goals, running experiments, and learning from both your wins and your losses. It basically gives you a structure for iterative progress,
I see.
a disciplined way to approach challenges and get those breakthrough results.
It's fascinating how lean draws parallels to things like martial arts.
It is.
But it's not all just about systems and processes, is it?
Not at all.
There's a human element to consider as well.
Absolutely. A big part of lean transformation is fostering that culture that embraces change,
Right.
understanding how individuals react to it and how they go through those transitions.
And the book mentions the human behavior model in this context. What insights does that offer for navigating, like, the human side of change?
The human behavior model emphasizes that people have different levels of comfort
Right.
with these new ways of working.
Yeah.
So it encourages you to address resistance head on, recognizing that not everyone's going to jump on board right away.
And this kind of ties back into the idea of successful failures we were discussing before.
Exactly.
Right.
It does. It's about creating a culture where mistakes are seen as valuable, as data points, to guide future iterations and actually foster innovation.
So it's about shifting away from that fear of failure
Yeah.
that often stifles creativity.
Exactly. Creating that safe space for experimentation because, often real progress comes from venturing into the unknown.
Now, we've mainly been talking about lean in the context of businesses and organizations, but our book also hints at applying it to our personal lives.
It does.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So you can use lean principles to streamline your daily routines, maximize your own effectiveness. It's about identifying and eliminating waste in your personal workflows.
Right.
Create space for what really matters.
So could someone use lean, for example, to manage their time better
Absolutely.
or even declutter their home?
Yeah, think about applying those lean principles to organize your home, pursue your passions, or even just make your morning routine smoother.
Right.
It's really about bringing that same spirit of continuous improvement into everything you do.
It's almost like lean can be a philosophy for life, not just work.
It really can.
We've covered a lot of ground in this exploration of lean thinking.
We have.
We've gone deep into its core principles, looked at those real-world case studies, and even considered how it applies to personal growth.
Right.
But before we wrap up this segment, I'm wondering, what's one area you think our listener could experiment with lean principles?
That's a great question. It could be something small, like streamlining a task at work that they find tedious,
Okay.
or maybe decluttering their workspace, or maybe tackling a personal project they've been putting off, using lean principles to break it down into manageable steps.
So it really highlights the adaptability of lean.
Yes.
Its potential to unlock efficiencies even in unexpected places.
Absolutely. Embracing that spirit of continuous improvement, challenging the status quo, starting your own lean journey, it can lead to some really amazing results.
This has been so enlightening.
Good.
But unfortunately, we are out of time for this segment. We'll have to continue our deep dive in the next part of our exploration. Okay, so we've journeyed through the origins of lean. We've explored its core principles, and we've even touched upon its kind of surprising applications in our personal lives.
We have.
But before we wrap up, can we distill all this knowledge
Uh-huh.
into some key takeaways for our listeners?
Yeah.
What have we learned?
Absolutely. Let's synthesize what we've gotten from powering the lean enterprise and all those great case studies that we've been discussing.
Perfect. I'm ready to take notes.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to remember that lean is more than just a set of tools. It's really a philosophy.
So it's not just a one-time fix.
No, not at all. It's an ongoing way of working. It's about creating that culture where everybody is empowered to find and eliminate waste.
And that makes me think of our earlier discussion about the human behavior model and how people approach change. It seems like creating that learning organization is so crucial for lean to really stick.
Oh, absolutely. A learning organization, they embrace experimentation. They look at failures as opportunities to learn and grow.
Right.
And that requires a real shift away from that fear of making mistakes.
It's about encouraging people to step outside their comfort zones.
Yeah.
Try new things and know that it's okay to not always get it right on the first try.
Exactly. And this ties into another key takeaway. Lean really challenges the status quo. It encourages you to question those assumptions, to always be looking for better ways of doing things, to never settle for just, okay?
So it's about constantly striving to improve.
Yes.
Never becoming complacent.
Exactly. That mindset of always refining, always pursuing excellence.
And we saw how those lean principles can actually go beyond just business, right?
They do.
They can impact our personal productivity, our daily routines, even our well-being.
Absolutely. It's bringing that same drive for improvement to everything you do, making space for the things that really matter.
I love that. It's a good reminder that lean is a journey, not a destination.
It is.
It's constantly evolving.
As we wrap up our deep dive into lean thinking, I want to leave our listeners with something concrete, something they can take away.
Sure.
Could you summarize like the top 10 takeaways in a nice, concise list?
All right, so here are 10 key principles of lean thinking that we've talked about today.
Number 1, define value from the customer's perspective and make sure all your activities are geared towards delivering that value.
Got it.
Number 2, eliminate any activity that doesn't contribute to creating value for the customer. Number 3, design processes to ensure a smooth and uninterrupted flow of work. Minimize those delays and bottlenecks.
Okay.
Number 4, produce and deliver only when needed to reduce excess inventory and waste. Number 5, foster that culture where everybody can identify and implement improvements no matter how small.
Makes sense.
Number 6, engage and empower employees at all levels, recognize their contributions, and value their expertise. Number 7, use visual tools to make work processes transparent so that everyone understands them and it's easier to solve problems. Number 8, get that unwavering support from leaders who champion lean, encourage experimentation, and empower employees to make a difference.
Good. Almost there.
We are. Number 9, understand how processes are interconnected and how changes in one area can ripple throughout the whole system. And finally, number 10, embrace lean as a long-term journey of continuous learning and improvement. This is not a one-time project.
That's a fantastic list. I really hope our listeners feel equipped to start applying these principles.
Me too. Whether it's improving a work process, tackling a personal project, or just simplifying their day-to-day, lean can help them be more effective.
This has been such an insightful exploration. I know I'm inspired to take a closer look at my own work and see where I can maybe be a little more lean.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and guiding us through this deep dive. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine. And remember, this journey of continuous improvement, it never really ends. So keep learning, keep experimenting, and never stop seeking that better way.
And with that, we conclude our deep dive into the world of lean. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those gears turning.